Hey everybody, it's me, and I'm here with an overview of next month's Great Artist Lesson. We'll be continuing our famous artist series for our first and second graders. They will be learning about Pablo Picasso, one of, if not the most famous artist of all time. He was considered a genius and a influence on 20th century art. I'm going to go over the lesson and then I will talk about the project itself. And by the way, this is the last lesson for the year. Here we begin our discussion about where Pablo Picasso was born and his name. This is his real full name. I had no idea. We go on to discuss and maybe have to explain to the kids what a prodigy is, what a child prodigy is, because Pablo Picasso was considered very talented artistically, and they considered him a young prodigy. And by the age of 19, he was a full-fledged professional painter. And by the way, so his dad was a painter as well. What a coincidence. Here we introduce the concept of art periods to the kids, and we tell them, because they probably don't have any idea of what an art period is, so we want to make sure we have a little discussion explaining that an art period is a phase of development, a change and growth in an artist's career. But for Picasso, there were some very specific periods of art that even have labels. And these are some examples of those periods of art. First, we have the blue period, and then the rose period. There was an African period, and then we introduced them to the concept of cubism, because this is a huge one. And we'll continue that discussion on the next slide. But we also, at this point, introduced to them one of our printed art pieces. It's the enamel saucepan, and we asked the kids to, based on what you've explained to them about the different periods of Picasso's art and what they've understand or what they've heard, can they identify what period of art this print belongs to? Here we further the cubism discussion that we started on the last slide, and we talk about how Pablo Picasso used his models. And an interesting quote from him is, "I paint objects as I like them, not as I see them." So he would take a model and not necessarily paint them in a traditional way. He might have one eye facing forward and the other eye facing another way, and the nose facing an opposite way. He painted them as he wanted them to see. And even in the body shapes may be squares or rectangle feet. It was as if you were putting together a jigsaw puzzle or a broken mirror. And this discussion directly will link to the project that they will be doing today. Here we further the discussion of cubism and relate it to a specific type of art where he kind of merged cubism with a new type of technique that they say was invented by Pablo Picasso, collage. So this is just an idea to introduce to them that it doesn't necessarily have to be paint. It can also be done, that cubism can be done with paper. It can be done with anything, breaking something apart and making it new, innovating the art to another level. Before we move on to this slide, we have a quick discussion about how Cubism changed the concept of art and led its way to Surrealism and modern art. And we reference a couple of the prints that we have. Specifically, we look at the guitar, glass, and fruit dish print and identify that this is a piece of Surrealism. And we ask the kids to look at both the Cubism versus the Surrealism and then just tell you how they see that they are different. Why are they different? But also how they see how Cubism kind of made its way to Surrealism and helped with that whole period of art. Then after we've had that discussion, we go to this slide and we talk about Pablo Picasso's lasting influence on the art world and the fact that his artwork had a mixture of styles and that he painted to the very day that he died. He is a huge influence on the art world, and many people have learned from him and continue to learn from him, and his pieces are reflected in people's art the world over. And then we also have a little fun fact down here about Pablo Picasso's artwork and the fact that it sold for $179,300,000. The kids love it when they get to hear how much a piece of artwork sells for, and I think this one will be a real shocker for them. All right, it's project time. And for this project, they are going to be doing their own version of a cubism face using just a few supplies. They're going to have a piece of white drawing paper, some pencils, colorful markers, and a black Sharpie, as well as a Picasso face instructions. It's a template that kind of helps break down the different phases of doing one of these cubism faces. Now, you have a choice. You can walk around the room and help the kids as they're doing it, or you can show them by using that special little overview finder view thing that we have in the classroom and have them watch you and do it with you as you are drawing a Picasso face. Either way you decide, that's up to you. We just want to make sure we give them a couple of tips. One of the things is we want them to fill in that whole paper, not a very small face. The face should fill in the whole paper. And when they're using the markers, the colorful markers, they're going to want to make sure that they use that very flat, wide side of the marker to kind of really give it full coverage of that color. So they draw it with pencil first. So if there's any mistakes, they can erase it and redraw it. So they draw with pencil first. Then after they're happy with what they've got, they then use the markers to color it in. And then after that, to make everything pop, they use a black permanent marker to do the lines and make everything kind of separate and make that cubism really show. And that is the project for this month. I would also at the very end of the class thank them for a wonderful year because this is their last project for the year, and remind them that in May during open house there will be a very special great artist art show, and that they will work with their teachers to pick their utmost favorite piece that they want to have on display and for sale and do this. They're worried that someone else is going to buy their artwork. No one else is going to buy their artwork. Their parents are going to buy their artwork, but it is a wonderful way to give exposure to the program and also help fund some of the art supplies for next year. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you guys have done this year, and hopefully this lesson and project is a winner. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. See you in the hallways.